what I found is in my legal industry, when it comes to my family law attorneys, right now they're busy. They're busier than they've ever been because there's so much stress going on in marriages right now, in relationships. And unfortunately, I'm a product of a divorce, high stress in the business, and it did contribute to the divorce as well as many other factors. But what you said in your book was when the recession arrived and I was struggling every day to keep the doors open, the stress returned to unbearable levels. I decided that the only way I could deal with it would be to tell Nancy everything that was happening at work, good or bad, every day. She hated hearing it at first, as it reminded her of difficult times in her childhood, but we ended up getting along much better. Keeping a barrier between my work and home lives was a mistake. When my wife had a clear picture of the situation, she became an ally instead of an adversary. Paul, people right now, they're home, they're struggling, stress levels are high. Got to ask you again, what advice would you give?
Well, you just heard what worked for me, but I think a lot of that, the credit for that being a path to success goes to my wife, and also the relationship we had previously, which was quite strong. Um, I hesitate to give advice to people about their personal lives because I'm not a product of a divorced family. I've never been through it myself, and um, I don't want it to sound like smug advice, like you do this, it'll work. I really can't guarantee that. I think that one of the things that I've learned from just from employing people is that you say the same thing to five people, and one of them, the actual words that came out of your mouth are kind of like a booby trap, or they set off an extreme reaction because of something that's deep inside that person. You can say to five people, like whatever. It doesn't matter what. They're going to hear it different ways, and it's going to press different buttons on them. So being candid about business conditions is certainly a tactic. I had not, prior to that recession, really spent much time talking to my wife about cash flow or what the customers were up to. Uh, we had a house full of little kids, and one of them was autistic, and she had her own stuff going on. And I think that it seemed to me like it might just be more burden for her. And she turned out to be able to manage it, but there's people who probably couldn't manage it. And so, Martina, you probably have a much wider range of advice for your people than I do on this one because you work with all these lawyers. I'm sure you hear just unbelievable horror stories from family law lawyers about how people are able and not able to communicate. And so what would you do in this situation?
Well, thanks for asking, Paul. I guess what I would say is you're right. It's all a communication. And it's funny, I was listening to someone on YouTube. His name is E.T., hip hop preacher, and he was talking about is your relationship. He said, when you get into marriage, it's going to show you everything about who you are. And you want to make sure that it's built on bedrock and not sand, because when the pressure hits, if you don't have what Paul talked about, that good relationship going in or a great relationship going in where you are vulnerable, when you're talking about everything, where you're okay to everyone outside, but when you walk through that home, you can be vulnerable with your spouse, you're going to struggle. Right now, you want to open up and talk about the pressure. You want to communicate the financial situation. Do not hide it. I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen with business owners, because I actually have a divorce attorney that helps business owners facing divorce. What most people don't know, we all know finance is the number one cause of divorce, but for business owners, the business divorce rate is higher than anyone else because there's so much stress. So communicate, be honest about the financials, listen to your spouse's advice, at least listen and take it in, let them know that their voice is important. And above all, know that you have each other. If I lost everything in my business, you can start over. What I found is that true business owners, and I separate entrepreneurs and business owners because I feel like there's a shift once you have people that are depending on you for a paycheck. But what I found is you can start over. I don't think I've ever met someone that truly had a business that failed, that if they wanted to start over, they were more successful in the second business than the first. So, Paul, I just wanted to put that out there. And I want to thank you for taking time out to just have a conversation with me. I don't interview people anymore, but as soon as I kind of, it's weird how things started to shift a little bit. I actually was traveling. I was supposed to go to the Philippines here in March. Had actually went to LA, had all this travel on my calendar, and just paying attention to the world news, I started just to feel things shifting. And as it did, again, it reminded me of your book. It reminded me of how I felt in 2018 when I read your book, when I was having challenges with cash flow and employees not doing what they were supposed to do, and felt like nothing out there or no one out there understood until I read your book. So during these times,
so I wrote this book. Basically, I wrote it in 2013 and 14, and then it was published in 2015. And it was never a big seller, but it's never stopped selling either. And I get usually, let's say, 3 or 4 emails a month from business owners all over the world, like literally all over the world, who say the exact same thing you did, which is that, oh, I found it and it felt like it was about me. And then they reach out, and that's really great. And I'm just like, how did you hear about it? Because it's not a famous book by any means. I'm just curious how you came across it.
Yeah, well, I came across it from another business owner, and then I told all of the friends in my circle, and just started sharing with everyone that I knew. I mean, it's literally one of my. That's why I said now I can't even find a copy in my office. I had it on Kindle too because I let someone borrow it. But it is one of those books because, again, Paul, the reason why I'm so passionate about it and saying thank you is because I have not read another business book from a business perspective, from someone that actually is living it day to day, hasn't just been a CEO or hasn't been a COO or didn't inherit something. It literally is a day to day. So if you're listening to this, I wanted to interview Paul because I wanted you to hear from someone that's made it through. I want you to know that you're not the only one out there as a business owner struggling in your business, having challenges in your business. Cash flow might be a problem or it may not be a problem for you, but we all have challenges and Paul's book addresses all of them. So Paul, any final thoughts, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, the last sentence in the book was "get help," or in the last
Yeah.
paragraph. Right? And one of the things about this whole crisis right now that's really remarkable to me is how different the world is from 2008 and from 2001 and from 1997 and from 1987. All the other things I've been through, which is that it is actually pretty easy to reach out to people and talk to them. And as a business owner, I think that there's a lot of tendency to just like feel like you're overwhelmed and that nobody wants to hear your problems and that nobody cares and that you're a failure and that it's shameful to talk about how hard it is. And I just got to tell you, don't fall into that trap. Reach out and talk to somebody. If anybody wants to, they call me. Google it, Paul Downs Cabinet Maker. You'll find my contact information. And I don't care whether you read the book or not. I mean, if you feel like you need that story, do it. It's on Amazon, but it's not like it's making me a ton of money or anything. So, but if you want to talk to somebody, you want to send me an email, contact me. Or I think that the best source of support and advice is people in your community who you get a chance to interact with on a regular basis, so that you can have kind of a boss to boss advice, friendship, support relationship, but just don't sit in your office and be alone. The tools are there now. It's so easy to send an email. It's so easy to Google somebody. And I'll tell you what, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but every time someone reaches out to me, it makes me feel like, oh, I am smart. It's like, it's no cost to me. It's like a big ego boost. So I'm always happy to help. And I think that almost everybody you ask for help is going to feel the same way. It's a testament to your faith in them. And so if anything good comes out of this whole mess, it's going to be that we all see, in a new way, the value of reaching out to others and communicating and forming community. So that's my last word. Do it. Reach out, form community.